Welcome to Sage Audio. Today we're looking at an advanced vocal chain. To get the most from your music, watch the entirety of each chapter for a complete understanding of the topic. Full chain overview. The chain we're looking at today is the chain I use on personal projects. Some of it may seem excessive, and it probably is, but I find I get really good results. It starts by attenuating resonance, sibilance, and other unwanted frequencies. Then it moves to saturation and compression. Then we get into temporal effects, like a slapback reverb, stylized reverb, and some crosstalk. The chain ends with another de-esser and subtle Gauss EQ. We'll look at each insert individually and explain why it's being used, but first, let's listen to the full chain.
These lights go down for no one, burning on a neon sign. Let's shake hands, I'm moving in. This is life on the borderline.
Soothe 2, then Weiss DS. Soothe 2 removes excessive resonance and sibilance. I like to use it first to avoid amplifying these with other forms of processing. I'll use moderate settings like a low to medium depth to ensure I'm not attenuating too much. I also focus the effect on the mids. From there, Weiss DS performs really transparent compression to my high end to smooth the sound and avoid excessive sibilance later on. Feel free to replace this de-esser with whatever one that you like to use. Let's listen to these two plugins.
These lights go down for no one, burning on a neon sign. Let's shake hands, I'm moving in. This is life on the borderline.
If you have a mix that you need mastered, send it to us to receive a free mastered sample of it with the link in the description. Dynamic Subtractive EQ. After attenuating resonances and sibilance, I want to shape my sound a little more and get to choose exactly what I attenuate. I'll take a close listen to my vocal and gradually cut whatever I want less of. Sometimes I'll use a low-pass filter around 12 kHz as well. This gives the vocal a vintage sound, or maybe I'll dip some of 300 Hz to clean up the vocal a bit. I almost always use a high-pass filter up to about 80 Hz. When it's relevant, I'll make the bands dynamic to make the dips program dependent and feel a little more natural. Again, use whatever plugins work well for you, but this is the EQ that I typically use. Let's take a listen.
These lights go down for no one, burning on a neon sign. Let's shake hands, I'm moving in. This is life on the borderline.
Saturn 2 and Prefet by Accentize. With everything controlled, I'm going to add harmonics and subtle compression to my signal with Saturn 2 and FET by Accentize, but use whatever plugins you want for this stage. With Saturn, I may stick with the basic settings or add in some modulation to more closely emulate analog equipment. I almost always use oversampling to avoid aliasing distortion. With Accentize, I simply dial in the effect. It's a free plugin, but it sounds great in my opinion. Let's take a listen to the two plugins.
These lights go down for no one, burning on a neon sign. Let's shake hands, I'm moving in. This is life on the borderline.
If you're enjoying the video, consider hitting the like button. It really helps us bring you more videos. Opto Peak Down Compression. I like to use optical compression on my vocals for a smooth and thick sound. I find I only need about 3 to 6 dB of compression, but this will definitely depend on your vocal recording. I like soft knee for an analog sound and a shorter attack to capture the vocal quickly. I'll use a longer release of about half a second to smooth the vocal. I keep auto makeup gain on just since it helps with gain staging, but some engineers prefer this off. Lastly, I like to use 2x oversampling just in case the compression is causing distortion that would result in aliasing. Ultimately, this will make the compression sound more like analog equipment if this is the case. Let's take a listen.
These lights go down for no one, burning on a neon sign. Let's shake hands. is life on the borderline.
Slapback reverb. Slapback reverb is similar to slapback delay, but it's a little subtler since the reflections are diffused. I use a reverb time of only about 100 milliseconds and then blend in the effect with the wet dry so that it thickens the vocal without being too noticeable. If your reverb utilizes an EQ section or some modulation, mix these into taste, but I prefer a brighter, more modulated sound. Let's take a listen.
These lights go down for no one, burning on a neon sign. Let's shake hands, I'm moving in. This is life on the borderline.
Only a small percentage of people that watch our videos are subscribed, so if you're enjoying the video, consider subscribing. It's free and you can always change your mind. Stylized reverb and crosstalk emulation. Next, I want to combine a couple of effects. I'm going to use a stylized reverb, by which I mean one that's longer and serves more of a creative purpose than a practical. This can, in all honesty, really be whatever you want or what sounds good to you. I like a medium reverb length that focuses on the mid-range and has a little modulation to keep it interesting. Then, I'll insert a crosstalk plugin, which blends the left and right channels to create mild expansion. These are kind of hard to come by. You might find a crosstalk function in a tape emulator, but I'd recommend Can Opener by Goodhertz. Let's listen to what these two plugins added to the signal.
These lights go down for no one, burning on a neon sign. Let's shake hands, I'm moving in. This is life on the borderline.
Weiss DS. Another de-esser may be overkill at this point, but I really can't stand the sound of aggressive sibilants. Since Weiss is so transparent, I don't mind the additional compression. It lets me control the top end of my vocal without adjusting previous processors. Also, I enjoy the sound of running processing into a compressor. It's subtle, but has a distinct sound that I enjoy more often than not. Let's take a listen to this second round of de-essing.
These lights go down for no one, burning on a neon sign. Let's shake hands, I'm moving in. This is life on the borderline.
If you'd like our custom plugin presets, audio samples, loops, download sheets, a members-only badge next to your name in comments, and more, consider joining with the link in the description. Subtle Gullfoss EQ. Gullfoss is an interesting plugin that dynamically adjusts the frequency response of the incoming signal in a way that can't be replicated manually. I find it works well at the end of my chain, since it subtly corrects every small mistake I couldn't hear at first or couldn't control. Subtle settings work best since the effect can quickly become aggressive in my opinion. I also like that it gives me these simple macro controls like brightening to tilt the response of my vocal without it sounding overbearingly bright or dark. Let's listen to the full before and after of the chain.
These lights go down for no one, burning on a neon sign. Let's shake hands, I'm moving in. This is life on the borderline. These lights go down for no one, burning on a neon sign. These lights go down for no one, burning on a neon sign.
If you have a mix that you need mastered, send it to us to receive a free mastered sample of it with the link in the description. Thank you so much for watching.